Lawrence Heritage State Park to the Bring Your Own Lunch program for today, July 23rd. My name is Rich Padover. I'm the summer interpreter or tour guide here at Lawrence Heritage. And again, welcome to today's presentation, which I'll be giving myself. On my left are some refreshments there. Feel free to help yourself to whatever you'd like. Next week on the 30th will be the last presentation for July. Tom Spitaleri, who's a fellow historian and a serious collector of historical memorabilia. That's his bicentennial collection behind me in the gallery, by the way, if you don't know already. So he'll be talking about his passion, or one of his passions, collecting historical memorabilia. So perhaps he might inspire some of you next week to start a collection of that as well. And then you have the August schedule that I gave you in front of you, so you know what's coming up for August. So briefly, on the 6th, Anita Kiley, some of you I think know her from the Lawrence History Center. She'll be talking about the archives. I'm sure it'll be very interesting at the Lawrence History Center where she works. August 13th, you'll be hearing from me again about the SNDs of Lawrence, and I'm sure those of you who perhaps went to parochial school are familiar with the SNDs, the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, who taught in a lot of the local K-8 schools and others. And then August 20th, Britt Bauner. He's a former supervisor here. I think some of you know him at Lawrence Heritage. I worked with him summer of 22. He'll be talking about the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893. That should be interesting. And then our last presentation for this summer, Tom Spitaleri, again, historian. His collection is on display right now, bicentennial collection behind me. He'll be talking about Native Americans on the Merrimack River, which should be interesting as well. Okay, so that's what's coming up. As always, you know, you're welcome to participate in our other programs here, my walking tours, my museum tours, and my boat tours. For August now, if any of you are interested, there are still some openings on the boat on Saturday mornings for the narrated tour of the Merrimack River. Okay, so if you're interested, let me know, or when Rebecca is here, you can let her know at the front desk. The boat tour, you do have to make a reservation for that. Okay, so just let us know if you're interested, which Saturday, and how many people are in your group. Okay, so, all right, so today, we're going to have a damn good time here now for the next hour, right? You saw that coming, right? I couldn't resist. And we're going to learn, or you will expand your already existing knowledge, perhaps, of the Great Stone Dam, okay? So you have the multiple choice quiz in front of you. You can start taking a look at that, or just as we go along, you can fill it in as we go along shortly. But next to me here on my left, and if you haven't had a chance to look at these, certainly do when you're leaving today. But on the easel here to my left, some photos of the dam. Down at the bottom here, a good view of the water coming down full strength over the dam. In the upper left, the dam showing the hydroelectric station that is located at the southern end of the dam with the remains of the old cement fish ladder there. And then in the middle, a couple of postcards over the years that have been produced with the Lawrence Dam as the focal point of the postcard, okay? So here's a really old one. I don't know what year, but the cost to mail it was 1 penny. So needless to say, a very long time ago, okay? And then more recently, on the top there, the vertical postcard of the dam in color, that again is much more recently, okay? Much more recent. And then On the left, my left, your right of the poster board here, a very frozen-looking dam in the winter time. Okay, so again, you can take a look at those, and then on my left, on the table with the blue tablecloth, some artifacts here from the museum that are normally downstairs on the first floor. You may have seen these in the past when you've looked around the museum, but for today's presentation, I set them up upstairs here. So we have one of the old metal bars there from the dam. From like the 1800s into the early 1900s that used to hold up the flash boards there on the top of the dam. And then we have a piece of one of those old flash boards. We have a piece of granite from the dam there as well, okay? And no, we did not steal it here from the dam. In the early 2000s, when they were installing the crest gate on top of the dam, to be able to adjust the pressure on the dam, okay? They gave us that piece there because they had to do some chipping away to install the crest gate, so they gave us a piece of one of the granite blocks there on top of the dam. And then you'll see a sketch of the photo of the dam when it was under construction in the 1840s. And then there's also some newspaper coverage there of when the dam was being prepared to produce hydroelectricity in the late 70s and early 80s. And then there's a binder there that is related to that project when they installed the bubble, the crest gate there on top of the dam to regulate the water level and therefore the pressure on the dam. Okay, according to the needs of the hydroelectric station. All right, so if you have not taken a look yet, feel free before you leave today. So all of these items, of course, are related to what we'll be talking about today. Okay, so, all right, now, so we'll go over the quiz now, which again, you know, forms the basis for today's presentation. All right. So, first of all, I gave you a little synopsis there on the dam, which I'll go over with you now briefly. Lawrence's Great Stone Dam was perhaps the greatest contributing factor in developing Lawrence as one of the leading manufacturing cities of the country. At the time of its construction, it was the most massive structure of the kind in the United States. The construction was innovative for the time as it used hydraulic injections of concrete into the spaces between the granite stones, which are firmly embedded and bolted down into the river's rock bed. A solid filling of earth backing the masonry and sloping back protects the structure. Okay? Now, excavations commenced on August 1st, 1845, with the construction firm of Gilmore and Carpenter out of Boston as the winner of the contract from the Essex Company on July 5th, 1845, to build the dam. At the time of construction, it was the largest dam in the world. Okay? Cheap labor was readily available in the form of the newly arriving Irish immigrants, which held down the costs, okay? Otherwise, it would have been more than what it was, which we'll find out during the quiz here. That way, or the way that the dam was constructed led to its reliability and durability. No major repairs to the stonework or to the dam itself have ever been required. All right, so you got to hand it to those Irish immigrants there, right? They knew what they were doing. Okay, so yes. Okay, now let's see how much you know or may know about the dam. As always, you do not need to reveal your score. It will be known only to you personally, unless you want to share it with us when we're done here. Okay, if for some reason you score exceptionally well and you want to share that score with the rest of us, we'll share in your joy. Okay, so, all right. Number one, which one of the following statements is true about the Great Stone Dam? Okay, as far as like its measurements now, all right? So, would anybody like to volunteer their answer for number one?
B.
Yes, Pat, very good, B, okay? It's 900 feet long, 35 feet high, and 32 feet wide at the base, okay? Now, I will tell you that the length of the dam, okay, does increase, okay, if we include each wing wall at the southern end and northern end of the dam, okay? The dam does have a wing wall at each end, okay? So if we include those what's called wing walls, one at each end of the dam, which extend it out, okay, the dam then becomes 1,629 feet long. Okay, so the dam itself, 900 feet long. If we include the wing walls at each end of the dam, that brings it up to 1,629 feet. Okay, so. All right, and just stop me as we're going along if you have any questions or comments. Pat?
What's the height at the top of the dam?
Okay, 35 feet high.
Yeah, but the width, the thickness.
Okay, the thickness as measured at the base is 32
yeah,
feet.
yeah,
So 32.
yeah.
Okay. Now, it does slope, it has like a sloping
Yeah.
effect, so it varies somewhat with the sloping, but at the base though, okay,
Yeah.
where it would be the thickest, 32 feet. Okay, so it's quite impressive, yeah. All right, number two. Which one of the following statements is also true about the Great Stone Dam? Anybody? C, right. It's part of the North Canal Historic District, and it's also listed on the National Register of Historic Places, probably to no one's surprise, okay? And if you want the dates, it was put on the National Register of Historic Places on April 13th, 1977. You might think, wow, wouldn't it have been earlier? And you would be wondering correctly, as I am, okay? But for some reason, it wasn't until April 13th, 1977, that it was placed on the National Register of Historic Places, okay? And then 1984 is when it became part of the North Canal Historic District, okay? Which would basically be when you're looking out the windows to my left here onto Canal Street, that basically is the North Canal Historic District, okay? 1984 for that, okay? All right, number three. Water power for the textile mills required a fall, a drop, greater than the 5 feet provided by the natural drop of the Merrimack River. And actually the fall would have to be no less than 30 feet, okay, to make this effective. Therefore, a dam of unprecedented size would be required. When scoping out the landscape for the new dam, it was decided to construct it near the site of an already existing falls named Bardwell's, right, Bardwell's Falls, okay? Now, as some of you may know from a previous talk that I gave, that some of you I think were at, Bardwell's Falls, as you may know, the Bardwell family was one of the early inhabitants of Lawrence, okay? I think I gave a talk on the Bardwell House earlier this summer, East Haverhill and Elm Streets, right? That was torn down in the 1950s. But the Bardwells were among the first inhabitants of the city of Lawrence, okay? So Bardwell's Falls, same family, they have the same name, okay? So,
Well, that was before it was a city.
Right, so before it was a city, right. So Lawrence was incorporated as a town in 1847, and then incorporated as a city 6 years later in 1853. All right, number 4. One of the principals of the Essex Company, who was also its lead engineer, was the designer and engineer of the dam. And an engineer, another engineer, who had worked as a captain in the U.S. Army, supervised the construction of the dam, as well as the North Canal out here when that was dug. Who were these two people? Anybody?
It's like D.
D, right. Charles Storrow and Charles Bigelow. Charlie and Charlie. The two Charlies. Yeah. Okay. Now, as you may know, Charles Storrow, okay, ended up becoming the first mayor of Lawrence. When it became a city in 1853, Charles Storrow became its first mayor, okay? And he had a mansion up on Prospect Hill, which is now Storrow Park, up on High Street, okay, where the Guys Pool is located. It overlooks Lawrence General Hospital down below, right, okay? Unfortunately, I don't know what year it was, but unfortunately his mansion was torn down, and at that site now there's Storrow Park, okay? There's also the big blue and white water tank there, one of the water tanks for the city of Lawrence. The other two are Mount Vernon in South Lawrence, okay? So Storrow became the first mayor. Bigelow, okay, as you may know, I think when I've talked about the Pemberton Mill, Charles Bigelow later received unwanted notoriety when we had the collapse of the Pemberton Mill, okay? Because, you guessed it, right, he was an engineer, right, which we know about now already, right? And as an engineer, okay, he was the chief engineer of the Pemberton Mill, okay? And that's when he gained unwanted notoriety when the mill collapsed in 1860, okay? So being the chief engineer for that mill, he received some heat, right, when the mill collapsed, okay? Now, he blamed the owners of the mill, okay, who he said were responsible for all of the purchasing and the approval of the construction materials, right? We call that passing the buck nowadays, right? Okay. Okay. So he got blamed for the collapse. He passed along the blame to the owners. Well, you know, it was the owners who were responsible for all the purchasing and approval of the construction materials. He oversaw it, but it was the owners who had the final approval on everything, right? Okay. So, when all was said and done, nobody went to jail, okay? As you may know, there was an inquest, and the jury did find Bigelow responsible, okay, for the collapse of the Pemberton Mill, but no jail time for him or for anybody else either. They all got off, all right? So, you know, they had good lawyers. Yeah. All right. But that's how you may know Bigelow more so, okay, in conjunction with the collapse of the Pemberton Mill. All right. But prior to being the chief engineer of the Pemberton Mill when it was built, he was responsible, oversaw the construction of the dam in the North Canal. Okay, years before the Pemberton Mill collapse. So, okay. Number 5. In order to construct the Great Stone Dam, huge granite blocks had to be brought here by horse and wagon primarily from 4 quarries. 3 were in Massachusetts and 1 was in New Hampshire, okay? Now, where do you think those 4 quarries were in number 5 there, the choices? C, yeah. I heard more than one person, I think, say C, okay? So C, Rockport, Cohasset, and Quincy, Mass, and Pelham, New Hampshire. Okay? So that's where the granite, those 4 places primarily came from that was used in the construction of the dam. Okay? So, and they were huge, okay? For example, some of them were 2 feet by 2 feet by 9 feet, okay? And then once they were brought here by horse and wagon, then they had and you'll see it in the sketch over there of the construction of the dam on the blue table. But then they had like derricks, basically cranes, okay, along with oxen. Oxen were like real work animals back then, even today maybe, right? Okay. You know, if you know your history of colonial New England here, you know that oxen were the primary animal, right, that was used in order to like clear forests here during the colonial era, okay? In order to plant, they had to clear out forests, remove stumps. It was oxen that were used primarily for that, okay? So the same thing for getting those granite blocks into place on the dam, okay? Derricks, the wooden derricks, along with oxen, okay? So, yeah. Okay, number 6. The Great Stone Dam took exactly 3 years to the day to construct, September 19th, 1845 to September 19th, 1848. And by the way, September 19th, a little side thing here, is my birthday. So I'm very proud of the fact that my birthday, okay, is, you know, an important day in history here in the development of Lawrence.
Me too.
Oh, you too? Really? September 19th? Oh, fellow Virgo. Right. Yeah, very good, yeah. The cornerstone was laid by John Carpenter of the construction firm Gilmore and Carpenter, which again won the contract by the Essex Company to build the dam, okay? So Mr. Gilmore laid the cornerstone on September 19th, 1845, and then the final crest stone on the top of the dam was laid on the latter date, September 19th, 1848. Now, when I was reading Maurice Dorgan's book, History of Lawrence, Mass., which was published, self-published, I believe, in 1924 by Mr. Dorgan, okay? According to him, both the cornerstone and the final crest stone were also laid at the same hour of the day, okay? Not just the same month and the same day of the month, but the same hour as well, okay? But, kind of a little letdown here in his book, okay? But he doesn't specify what that hour of the day actually was, you know? I'm like, Maurice, come on, don't tease us like this, right? You know? What was it 11 a.m., 3:30 p.m., right?
Yeah.
But he didn't follow through on that in his book, so we have no idea what the hour of the day was. But according to Mr. Dorgan, and if this is true, it was obviously very carefully planned out, okay? But according to him, it occurred on the same hour of the day as well, okay? So, but cost-wise, okay, what was the price tag of the Great Stone Dam? Anybody?
B.
It's not D, no, we do know the price.
Oh, we do. B.
B, right, B, $250,000, $250,000.
Yeah.
Okay, now to put that into modern perspective, okay, in today's dollars, okay, now again, this is what the Essex Company spent, okay, but in order to create their planned a great textile manufacturing center on the banks of the Merrimack River. They had to cough up that $250,000, right, to produce the dam, okay? Now, in today's dollars, just so you know, that would be about $10 million, okay? About $10 million in today's money.
And it would take 12 years.
Yeah, and probably with cost overruns, right, labor issues, right, you can just see it now, right, okay? It would probably take, longer than 3 years to get it done today, yeah. So, and again, the price would have been higher, okay? But they had that, the availability of that cheap labor here, okay? The newly arriving Irish immigrants, which were looking for work, okay? A lot of them got jobs building the dam, and they worked for cheap labor, okay? Which will lead us into another question coming up, number 9. So I can't tell you how much right now they got paid, but we'll address that when we get to question number 9, okay? But again, it was cheap labor, and that's primarily what held down the costs, okay? Or it would have been more than $250,000, right? Okay, now, throughout its history, number 7, the Great Stone Dam has not needed any major repairs and has only required routine maintenance. It also stood the test of floods in which one of the following years?
36.
36, yeah.
Well, no, the correct answer is not B.
No?
Well, it says in which one of the following years.
Okay, true.
But I think you're looking at D.
But I'm looking at D though, and I'm sorry if I didn't phrase it correctly, but the correct answer is D. Okay? So there were massive floods here in Lawrence, okay? The first one after the dam was completed occurred only 4 years later, in 1852, okay? That one you may not have really heard about, but it was a biggie, okay? Then the next biggie that I think we all have known about or read about, right, or know about, was 1936, okay? Now, the water, it did not hold back the water, but by the same token, it did not get damaged though either, okay? So, if you've ever seen photos of Broadway there, the Falls Bridge during the flood of 36, right? A sea of water there, you can't even see the dam, right, okay? Massive flooding there on Broadway, okay? But again, it did not crack during the flood though, okay? And then of course the most recent biggie was 2006. Some of you may remember that, what's known as the Mother's Day flood of 2006, right? We had massive rain all that week leading up to Mother's Day in 2006. Those of you in the area might remember this, okay? So by the time we got to that second Sunday of May, which was Mother's Day, okay, it was a mess out there. Pemberton Park, one of our properties that we maintain here, all underwater, right? You wouldn't even recognize it if you saw it, okay? So Pemberton Park was completely flooded. That's a DCR property. We had to do a lot of work after there to restore it, okay? That whole area was completely submerged underwater. The Merrimack overflowed its banks, okay? But again, the dam stood the test of time, okay? So it did not break during any of these 3 major floodings that we've had over the years, okay?
Well, they had a lot of embankment built up from the bank back to, along 110 there.
Mm-hmm.
And was that embankment before or after the flood? Or?
Yeah, okay, so 110 when you're going to Lowell, yeah, during the Mother's Day floods, that was a mess there as well. The Merrimack overflowed its banks there. Normally it doesn't, okay? But when you get a week's worth of heavy rain with no let up, so like Armory Street, Lowell Street, and West Methuen there, yeah, that whole area got hit bad there. People were being evacuated from their homes there in boats, you know, to get them out of there. So yeah, it was really bad. Yeah, yeah. All right. So, okay. Number 8. Now, how many deaths occurred during the construction of the Great Stone Dam? Anybody?
I'll say 6.
No?
I'll say
No?
And then,
3.
We got 2 choices left now.
yeah,
3, B. Yeah, 3 deaths.
It's not bad.
Not bad considering it was a 3-year project and working under dangerous conditions,
Right.
right? Okay, now let me tell you about those 3 deaths, what happened, okay? All right, now, when they were building the Great Stone Dam, right, a permanent granite dam, okay, they had to first build what's called a coffer dam, C-O-F-F-E-R, okay? Those of you that might have an engineering background here, you probably know. A coffer dam, okay, is a temporary wooden dam, okay, in order to divert the flow of the river, right, get it out of the way, so that they could build the permanent granite dam, okay? Because they obviously had to divert the water in order to put in the granite there, right? Okay, so that temporary wooden dam is known as a coffer dam, okay? Only meant to be temporary and normally just made out of wood, okay? Now, however, that coffer dam, which, you know, again, only temporary, only made out of wood, okay? One day it washed out, boom, 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 you know, goodbye, right? It washed out, but while Charles Bigelow, okay, and a crew of 15 employees, okay, the construction workers, okay, were examining part of the dam, okay? So one day, Bigelow and 15 employees were just doing a routine examination of the dam. Oh, how's it coming along? Let's take a look, okay? Wouldn't you know it, that particular day that they were examining the dam, the coffer dam suddenly washed out, okay? So, the force of the rushing water now, okay, carried all members of the inspection party, Bigelow and the 15 employees, okay, it carried them, you can picture this now, over the dam, okay, just literally, it carried them over the dam, okay, and down 30 feet, okay, to the riverbed, okay, where 3 members of the inspection party were killed, 3 were injured, and then the rest were unharmed. Okay, so what, 9 then were unharmed, okay? So those were the only deaths that occurred during the construction of the dam, and it was pretty gruesome there, I guess you could say,
Oh, I can imagine.
right? The circumstances under which it happened, you know? So, all right. So, all right, number 9. Okay, so here's the question about what they got paid now. What was the range of pay per day for the construction workers on the Great Stone Dam who did the backbreaking labor? Anybody?
C.
Not C, but A though. A, yeah. 84 cents to $1 per day.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
Per day.
What's that?
Imagine per day.
Per day, yeah.
Oh,
Can you imagine? Yeah.
how many hours did they work?
Day.
I don't know the exact amount of hours they worked, but I'm willing to guess it was a long day.
12, yeah.
It might have been like 12 hours a day, just like the factory workers, you know, or close to it, I would imagine.
I would think so.
Yeah, okay. Now, again, the dam was built a lot, not exclusively, but a lot by the newly arriving Irish immigrants, right, trying to escape the Great Potato Famine in Ireland, okay? But part of the native population, what we call the Yankee stock, right? Part of the native population also built the dam, okay? But in large part, it was built by the newly arriving Irish immigrants, okay? And of course, you know, they get here, they're looking for work, they're looking for housing, right, okay? So, and again, there was that readily available labor pool there, right? The Irish immigrants, okay? So a lot of them were scooped up, okay, by the Essex Company in conjunction with Gilmore and Carpenter in Boston, okay, to construct the dam, okay? Now, this was 1845 to 1848, right? And there wasn't really any housing developed yet in the city of Lawrence, right? Okay, so where did the newly arriving Irish immigrants live? Well, I think I talked about this during a previous presentation, those of you that were here for that, in shanties, right? Shanty towns here in Lawrence, okay? And there were two major ones, okay? One of them was at the southern end of the dam, okay, which enabled them to easily walk to work in the morning and then walk back home at night, right? So that would have been in the area of Walcott Avenue and Shattuck Street, where the experiment station is located, okay? So literally right at the southern end of the dam there, right? They could get to work easily and then return home at the end of the day easily, right? Just by walking. Okay, and that's all they could afford, right? Shanties, basically made of scrap building materials that they could gather up, okay? No electricity, no running water. They could have been quite crowded inside those shanties, right? Okay, in order to, you know, to pay the rent there, because they had to rent the land that the shanties sat on, okay? And then the other big shanty that I've mentioned before in previous talks was what we call the Plains neighborhood now, just a few blocks up from here, okay? So behind the old Lawrence High School, where Breen's Funeral Home is, St. Anthony's Maronite Church, the Mary Immaculate Nursing Home, right? That whole level area of land, hence the Plains, okay? That was the other big Irish shanty, okay? And again, easily walkable to get to the dam after, okay, to report to work, okay? Now, later in ensuing years, as you may know, and some of these neighborhoods changed ethnic compositions over the years, right? Like Lower Common Street, for example, as you may know, used to be part of the big Italian neighborhood here, right? But prior to that, the Irish lived on Lower Common Street, okay? Then when they upgraded their living, okay, they moved out of Common Street, but that's when the Italians, the immigrants came in, right? Okay? So, with the Plains neighborhood, okay, after the Irish upgraded themselves and moved out of there, it became a Middle Eastern ethnic neighborhood, right? Mostly Syrian and Lebanese, okay? And then St. Anthony's Maronite Church was built there, St. Joseph's Melkite, okay? So, so that's that. But again, before the Middle Eastern immigrants settled there, that was the other big Irish shanty. Okay? So, okay. Now, let's see. Just checking my notes if I wanted to tell you anything else here. No, okay. Number 10. Now, when the Lawrence Hydroelectric Associates, and again, inside that frame on the blue table is newspaper coverage of when they were planning to build or in the process of building a hydroelectric station, okay? But when the Lawrence Hydroelectric Associates began the construction of a $28 million power plant at the south end of the Great Stone Dam, they were careful not to disturb the original dam, right, which of course is very important, when they purchased a controlling interest in the Essex Company in the mid-1970s, with the intention of constructing a hydroelectric station, okay? This was to ensure energy production and preserve the architectural integrity of the dam. In 1981, the project was completed and it allowed for the generation of a 16.8 megawatts of power, much more than the 15,000 horsepower or 11 megawatts that the dam produced in its heyday, okay, for comparison purposes. Now, what was previously located on the site of the current hydroelectric station?
That's BC.
B, right, B, right. The Lamplighter Nursing Home. Does anybody here remember that? Pat
Faintly.
and faintly,
That
Carol?
was faintly.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it.
Yep, okay, yep. I remember as a kid growing up here, I still remember it there, that nursing home, the Lamplighter Nursing Home, which was right where the hydro station now is on the southern end of the dam.
Beautiful view.
Yeah, beautiful view, right? If you have to go into a nursing home, it might as well be one with a nice view. Right, okay? So gorgeous view of the dam there from the nursing home, right? You know, but, you know. But I'll tell you, those three other choices that I gave you there, some of you might remember, all of those three other choices were located right nearby there, okay? So, yeah, right, some of you remember these things,
Where's the
right?
city go?
Malco Electronics, yeah. So
That
Malco,
building's still there.
yeah, right. So when you're heading south on Broadway and the
Yeah.
dam is on your right,
Yeah.
and you get to that intersection where the stoplights are on the right, that's that's Walcott Avenue, right? There's that little building on the right that has been a diner for a long time. It's gone through name changes, right? But that's Walcott Avenue, and if you look in, on the right there's that old brick building there. That used to be Malco Electronics, okay? My father was an electrician during his whole career, and I remember sometimes he would take me, like on a Saturday morning, into that Malco Electronics there when he needed to get something, you know? Like I remember the old, remember the old television sets that had the tubes in them, right? Sometimes when we needed new tubes for our TV set at home, for example, my father would go to Malco Electronics there to get them, okay? The city flour mill used to be across the street from the dam, okay? Right near that intersection of Broadway and Merrimack Streets, where the South Canal is located, okay? There used to be a flour mill there, and the actual name of it was City, not too creative, but the City Flour Mill, okay? Now, some of you might know a little history about that, right? In 1907, and actually right on today's date, July 23rd, 1907, anybody know what happened to that flour mill?
Exploded.
It exploded.
Oh, yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, okay, just like,
That's why you.
Right?
Yeah.
All the dust gets in the
right,
air.
yeah, couple,
Like,
right?
up there in Methuen.
The fibers in the, yeah.
The fibers caught fire up there in Methuen.
Oh, the Malden Mills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the mills.
Right,
It happens all the time.
In the mid-90s there,
Yeah.
right?
I remember that.
Yeah, it was December, a couple of weeks before Christmas that time. It was either 95 or 96, yeah, right? And then in Boston, there was that molasses factory explosion, right? You may have heard about that. There was a river of molasses there traveling down the streets, right? You could like ride the wave, right? Okay? I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but you can't help it, right? So July 23rd, today's date, 1907, the city flour mill exploded, right?
Oh,
And the
And it
fire.
went up in a puff of
And a puff of smoke, right, white smoke, right, not black smoke, but white smoke, right, okay, white flour, right, you know.
Oh,
And it lasted about 3 days, you know, the ensuing inferno, the fires, okay, it kept the fire department busy for about 3 days that time, okay.
What caused it to blow up?
That I'm not sure
I
about.
started to write it, then I.
Yeah, I'd have to look into the cause, I'm not sure of the cause, okay.
Probably, the dust and then some of the spark from
The
a
machinery.
letter
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah, that's quite
I'm
possible.
thinking more humidity, dampness.
It could be that too, that was a problem in the mills here, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, and I don't think it was ever rebuilt after the fire, okay? And some of you might remember Tom Manzi Dodge,
Yeah.
Dodge dealer, car dealer, right? He was located right near that intersection as well there by the dam, okay? It's still a car dealer now, I think a used car
diagonally
dealer.
across.
Yeah, right, okay. So, kind of diagonally across the dam there when you're on Merrimack Street,
yeah.
okay? Merrimack and Carver Streets, okay? So, yep. All right, so those other 3 places that I threw in there, they were all right near the dam, actually, yeah. All right, so we'll have our Q&A now. So what would you like to ask me or talk about? Yeah.
The Lamplighter nursing home. I think you mentioned back then, wasn't that a motel at one time?
Yes, you know, I think you're right, Pat. I think it was actually a motel at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does deserve further research, yeah.
Yeah, because I had, this girl wanted to go, that,
Not me.
no,
Oh,
New Year's Eve.
before you knew Carolyn?
Yeah,
It was BC.
New Year's Eve, go there.
Do you want to go there and do
I think we
it?
had a dinner and unlimited drinks, you know.
Yeah,
They had one bartender in a closet.
in the closet.
One bartender, and you only could get 2 drinks at a time. I think we got screwed on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget the name of it.
Let me get this right, you went to a motel
Yeah,
on New Year's Eve
yes.
for young ladies.
Yeah.
It was not me.
But it wasn't Caroline, though, Carolyn's present wife, you know.
I was doing my
Was
own
it the
thing,
ball?
maybe in another one.
Perhaps you were. It takes 2 to tango. Yeah, so.
Which is laughing.
All right, so what else would you like to ask or
Can
talk
you
about?
shed any more light on the construction of the dam, how they laid the granite blocks down and how they
Okay.
fastened to the bedrock?
Yeah, okay. Well, again, you're welcome to come up here and take a look after, okay? But now, cameras back then were just coming into existence, okay? So we don't have any actual photographs of the construction of the dam, only an artist sketch, which might answer your questions, okay? So you can see the wooden derricks there, okay? I'm not sure if the oxen I don't think any of the oxen are shown here, but they did use oxen to lug those heavy granite blocks in conjunction with the derricks, the wooden cranes, into position, okay? Now, at the quarries, those granite blocks, I believe, were like shaved, or whatever the correct term is, before they were brought to Lawrence, okay? Shaped and
Yeah.
smoothed out, okay? So I think by the time they arrived in Lawrence, they were all set in stone, pardon the pun, okay, all right? And then it was the job of the workmen, the Irish immigrants, the Yankee population here.
They could have been numbered.
They might have been numbered, that's quite, I haven't come across that in any of my research, but that's quite possible, okay? And then put into place, and again, using injections of hydraulic cement, shooting the cement into the spaces in between the granite blocks to secure them. And Charles Bigelow and the Essex Company, they were very careful, they were very fussy. I mean, they knew what they were undertaking here, right? The importance of this. They were very fussy about the cement, They would inspect it, okay? It's too bad Bigelow after didn't do a better job, you know, inspecting the building materials at the Pemberton Mill. But again, he passed off blame to the owners, okay? But Bigelow, when he was overseeing the dam, the construction, and the Essex Company were very fussy about the cement, okay? They would judge it into 3 categories, like grade A was the best, okay? They made sure they used that for the most important parts of the dam. The cement that they gave a grade B to was still good, not the best, but still good. They used that in less prominent places in the dam, okay? And the cement, when it arrived here, that they judged kind of inferior, they gave it a grade of C, and that they tossed aside. Okay, but yeah, you know, take a look at that. That might give you a visual depiction there of what was involved. Okay, so
Okay, they really stack them.
yeah,
And then they fasten them together.
and then fasten them together, right? And then everything was bolted into the bedrock on the riverbed. Okay, so it was quite the engineering feat, you know, at the 18, right? Okay, and considering, you know, this was the mid to late 1840s, and they didn't have the modern equipment that we would have today, right? You know, and what the pay was back then, you know, but they did it, and they did a really good job. Again, it's only needed routine maintenance, no major repairs have ever been required there, okay? And by the way, some of you may know, during the summer, well, we can pass that around if you'd like. During the summer, on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m., I do give the dam tour, right? Okay, so one of my walking tours, Tuesday mornings, and I know it's hot in the summer with the weather sometimes, you know, being hot, but on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock, that my walking tour on that particular, on Tuesdays, we go to the dam, okay? So we walk up Canal Street, I talk about the mills, we get to the intersection with Amesbury Street, so we walk into Pemberton Park, and then we walk along the paved trail that parallels the Merrimack River. I talk about the Merrimack River, the Native Americans, okay? And then we keep walking, paralleling the river, and then we get to the base of the dam. Some of you may know, you know, normally you're probably up on Broadway driving, you don't know what's down below, okay? But under the Broadway Bridge there, okay, there is a viewing, it's a big cement viewing platform, and that's where I bring the people on the walking tour to, okay? So we're literally standing right in front of the dam, okay? Which again, you don't get this view when you're up above on Broadway, okay? So a lot of people like to take pictures when we get there. Now, some days the water is really pouring over the dam. It's quite the sight. It's really loud there. We can't even talk until we move away from the base of the dam, okay? But it's absolutely gorgeous there when the water is cascading down over the dam, and it's like natural air conditioning there too. It's nice and cool, okay? Other days when the water is not coming down over the dam, there's an advantage there as well, because you get a good up-close view of the granite blocks there that were used in the construction of the dam. Okay, so it's nice when the water is coming down. It's also nice when the water's not coming down, and you can literally see the dam there. Okay, the blocks, the granite. Okay, now as far as, okay, when is the water coming down? When is it not? Well, that depends on the hydroelectric station, right? Because they own the dam and they own the canal out there, okay? So depending on their production needs, okay, that's when they use that, what we call the crest gate on top of the dam, that big black bladder. If you're driving on Broadway, that you might be able to see sometimes. It's a pneumatic device with the press of a button inside the hydro station. They can inflate it and deflate it, okay? So depending on their production needs, okay, they'll either inflate the bladder, the crest gate. That's the one that was put there in the early 2000s. In order to create a higher water level, okay, which creates more of a force, okay, when they're producing their hydroelectricity, okay. Other days, maybe when not much is going on there, okay, they'll deflate the crest gate, okay? And that the water will come down slower over the dam, okay? But, so that basically determines when the water, is coming down a lot, or very little, or none at all, okay? But of course, in conjunction too with any rainfall that we might be getting as well, okay? So, but by and large, it's the hydro station that controls the flow of the water over the dam, okay?
After the floods and everything over these years, have they done anything upriver?
No,
In regard to
not,
flood control, no dams
not
at
to
all?
my knowledge, no. The crest gate there that I was talking about now on the dam, besides helping with the production of hydroelectricity, that's also meant to be, or to help aid flood control efforts, okay? But I don't think they've done anything like upriver, like towards Lowell that I'm aware of. Between the Lawrence Dam and the Pawtucket Dam in Lowell, it's basically one massive lake that we have there now, okay? So the dam at each end, Lawrence and Lowell, they play a large part in the flow of the water there, okay? So it's kind of an artificial lake now between the Lawrence Dam and the Lowell Dam.
In the early years with those earlier floods,
Yeah.
didn't Lowell flood?
Yes,
And we're talking about Merrimack River.
Merrimack River, and going all the way up into New Hampshire, which made a lot of farmers along the Merrimack unhappy, okay? So if you were a farmer back then, and sometimes your pasture, your fields would flood, okay? Being a farmer has always been hard throughout history, right? Long days, hard work, you're at the mercy of the weather, right? Okay. But back in the 1800s here, especially up and down the Merrimack, farming was even more difficult because of the Merrimack, okay? Which it's very prone to flooding, okay? And back then, there weren't really any measures, there were some dams, some smaller dams, okay? Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't, okay? But sometimes the farmers would actually blame the dams, okay, for their fields flooding.
Back
What's that?
up. It would back it
It would
up.
back up, right. So there are some documented stories here, Mass and New Hampshire with unhappy farmers because of the Merrimack.
So my grandfather bought land along the Pawtucket River,
Yeah,
which is, we get off at North Main Street in Concord.
Yeah.
And then you drive out
yes, yeah.
Fisherville Road, then you go
Yeah.
to Bog Road to get
Yes.
out to where you go over the river.
Mm-hmm.
On what used to be an old wooden bridge through the Concord.
Yeah.
I'd be woken up by that because I'd be sound asleep
Yeah.
most of the time on the way up.
Yeah.
But they had a major flood up there, and they had an upright piano in what we always call the camp, because it was originally built as just a summer,
Okay,
get out of the city.
yeah.
And the water came up to the keyboards. Now,
Wow.
the
Yeah.
Kentucky River in front of the camp, the road used to go in front of the camp. That was original. But from my day, it had been moved behind because they were afraid of erosion. And it really couldn't be two lanes, you'd have to try to pass each other.
Okay, yeah.
But I can't even imagine, because that has to be, how deep do you think that is down to that river? As it is now?
15, 20 feet.
Maybe 20 feet. From the
Okay.
water's height
Mhm.
up to the top of the land, which used to have a road, and you walk right into the camp.
Yeah. Wow.
But they built dams further up Kentucket.
Yeah.
Because the Kentucket does feed into the Merrimack. And
Yes.
This is probably where more of the problem is.
Yes.
That the feeders going into the Merrimack.
That's right.
Nobody's doing anything about them, but because this was right outside of Concord.
Yes.
And there were a
Yeah.
lot of summer homes along the river, they started doing something about it.
Yeah, maybe bowing to local pressure there, so, yeah.
But there was probably people not wanting them to do anything either, because we used to go up to a major turn up there, it was called the Mast Yard.
Okay.
And there were trees that were marked,
Mm-hmm.
for the Queen's ships.
Oh, wow,
And they would
yeah.
level the, whatever, whenever they needed them, whatever.
Yeah.
And they would float them down
Mhm.
and get them into the Merrimack River.
Yeah.
And probably get them down to Amesbury.
Yeah, Newburyport, that area.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay, thanks for coming, see you later, yes.
Quick question, what's the name of the place in Lowell you said to go to?
Okay, Lowell National Historical Park. Yeah, it should be like 20 minutes from here. If you go down Route 110, it'll take you right there.
I'll find it.
But you'll find, okay, yeah. So,
Otherwise-
okay, no, that's okay. Lowell National Historical Park.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, Pat.
Yeah. If you go down to Rockport there.
Yes.
Out at Halibut Point,
Yes, one of our sister parks.
you look down and
Oh, yeah.
that's where, maybe that was where the quarry.
Yes, oh, yes, right. If any of you have ever visited, okay, you know Halibut Point State
Yeah.
Park in Rockport,
Yeah.
one of our sister parks here, right,
Have you
okay?
been to that?
And that's the old quarry there,
Yeah.
Is
right?
that where we are?
And I think it's kind of like filled up with water now, but you can walk around the edge at the top, and you'll see that old granite, some of that old granite's still there,
Yeah.
okay? And then it's right on the Atlantic coastline, it's gorgeous there.
It's gorgeous.
Oh, isn't it, the views there? If you walk around, it's beautiful there, yeah.
No, that-
Yeah, it's a haul from Lawrence here, but it's worth the ride though. Yeah.
Maybe that would be a nice trip to do something.
All right.
And you talked about the depth, I know in 1938 when they were building the Golden Gate Bridge,
Yeah,
the theory at that time,
oh, yeah,
for every $1 million in the project,
Yeah, it's called.
one person was going to, and Strout was the engineer.
Right.
Said, I'm not on this job.
yeah.
They did lose some people, but
Yeah, right, yeah.
not the one for the $1 million.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Quite
when
an
they built,
undertaking when you think about virgin land and the way it's, the whole topography of the land
Yeah.
and so on and so forth, and how they had to try to maneuver around that
Yeah,
in order to even build this.
that's right, you know. Lawrence, as you may know, or from a previous talk of mine, Lawrence was no man's land prior to development and prior to the arrival of the Irish immigrants, right? There were only about 100 people living in what was to become the city of Lawrence, mostly farmers. There was pasture land here, some sand dunes, some forest, some swamplands here, right, you know? But things, you know, the earth had to be disturbed, right, in order to develop the city of Lawrence, you know? So things had to be altered. The canal out there had to be hand dug to get the water from the dam into the mills to power the turbines, to create the energy to power the looms, right, you know? So there was a lot of you know, disturbance of the land here itself in order to develop the city of Lawrence, yeah. So, yeah. All right, anything else?
No.
No? All right, well, thank you all for coming. Hope you know a little bit more about the dam now today than you may have known before. So,
The dam talk was very good.
thank you, the dam talk was very good, thank you, yes.